It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years' experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. I'm so glad you're here with us today. This is the place to be for no sports, no politics, and no bad words. Now, that's rare, I know. We're on the internet, and so that's what this show is. This is where you come to get relief from all of that. We're broadcasting live from the deep in the headquarters of Remodel Revolution Radio in the deep in the heart of Texas. And we're all proud to be here and very fortunate to be here as we speak. So today's show is going to be really fun. We've got a very good friend of mine, a lady that I absolutely adore, Allison Iantosca. She is a builder. She's the owner of F.H. Perry Builders in Boston, Massachusetts. We're going to talk to her in a minute. And then we're going to visit with a friend of ours, Laura Eagan, with Estrella Cabinetry. She's in Phoenix, Arizona. And we're going to talk about cabinets and why you should hire a kitchen designer. You know, sometimes I get in the middle of, it's usually between a husband and a wife, and they're trying to figure out who's in charge. And so sometimes I'll call one of my friends that's a designer and I'll go, hey, I need you. I need you to come in here and be a referee for me. We're also going to talk, we're going to have a remodeler's tip, and I'm going to address something. You know, I like to do current things when I do this, things that I'm dealing with. And one of the things that is becoming a huge challenge here locally, and maybe we'll talk to Allison, see how it's working in Boston, and we'll find out how it's working in Phoenix as well. And that's getting things on time and understanding sort of how we're having to have things delivered. And I'll tell you a story about one of my clients that I got to deal with this week on a delivery and how she reacted. It was pretty interesting. But first, let's meet with Allison Iantosca with F.H. Perry Builders in Boston, Massachusetts. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning.
How in the world are you?
I'm so good.
It's
got nice and cold here in Boston just overnight. We're ready for winter.
So you like it cold?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you?
Seasonal change.
We go from summer to dead winter overnight. That's what happened to us this week.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So you are the owner of F.H. Perry Builders, and you grew up in that business. Your dad started it in the 70s?
That's right. Yep.
And you were just kind of like the skinny little girl that rode around in the dump trucks, and they gave you you told me last time that one of the drivers would take you to school in the dump truck.
Yeah, every teenager's dream, don't you think?
I bet all the guys loved it. You know, they're like, hey man, can I get in the dump truck?
How do I get her? Yeah, right.
Yeah. I've always wanted to. I thought my mama told me I needed to marry a dump truck driver. And so you have been doing this your entire life, literally, except for when you were an actress and a model, right?
Well, I think there was no modeling. I think there was a halfway point though of my life. I didn't think I was doing it for the first half of my life. Maybe that was always in the secret sauce, but I thought I was on a whole other track until my late 20s. So
this wasn't part of the plan, one part of the grand plan.
This wasn't part of the plan, no.
But you love it, don't you?
I sure do. It's such a great industry filled with people who really care from the bottom of their hearts, I think. So when you're working with your hands, that's the way it goes.
I was talking with a friend of mine the other, maybe it was last week, and we were talking about how, particularly in the remodeling industry, how, and it's a little different than building. Like if you're on a job site and you're doing production homes, it's just a series of people coming in and doing their specific jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in a remodeling business, you actually become sort of family with the people. You depend on the same people over and over because it's such a specific skill set that people have to have.
Right, because you really enter into the lives of the people, the families that you're working for, and so the trades have to feel like, I think the trades have to feel like they're part of your family as the bigger company, so that then when they're involved in the families that we're working for, that's sort of a natural flow for all of us, that we're creating something together, and with that real love and dedication. It's pretty deep.
So you've been successful in the project when the homeowner says, I'm going to kind of miss you guys when you're gone.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Yeah, and I go,
when we can show up for dinner still.
and I go, but that won't last long. Trust me.
Yeah, no, you'll be glad.
You'll be glad to not have the dust and noise and the dogs barking and all that good stuff.
That's right.
So the last couple of years have been really intense in our industry with the volume of work that's come, the changes that are happening really, almost daily, code changes and clients and the way we deal with clients. And the best thing that you have, the most important, your frontline people, the people in the trenches are your employees. They're the ones that deal with these people every day. They're your face to your client, your face to your business. And it's really a big part of your project is how you manage these people. And I know that one of my builder tips this week, today, is I'm going to talk about how one of my subs is so frustrated with keeping people working. The people that are working for him are making him crazy, which happens. So how do you, in supporting your employees and how do you deal with them on a daily basis to keep them from calling you up twice a week saying, Allison, I need a day off?
It's really tricky. Everybody's having such a human experience, right, all together all the time. And I think the piece the sort of mantra that I hold is to try and stay coming at any situation, especially with the people, is a real optimistic stance, and thinking that everybody is showing up trying to do the best that they can with the circumstances that they have in front of them right now and in the moment. And as much as I want someone to be able to see a bigger picture or understand the broader challenge that we're facing, ultimately, if we've hired right and if we've brought the right people in to bring their expertise to bear, they're going to be doing the best that they can in that moment. So how do I think of my job as clearing the pathway to allow them to do their best work? And if they trust me that that's what I'm trying to do, and assuming that they're coming at everything with the skill set that they have, the mindset that they have, the value that they want to add, I can then have my job be a little bit more about coaching and supporting, as opposed to wagging my finger or trying to get everybody in line based on what I think should be a protocol or a standard or a system.
In other words, the difference between coaching and parenting.
Well, that's a really good way to put it. I think you're onto something. I mean, I think that's true. I think that really is true, because we're supposed to be a bunch of adults here that are getting along and are understanding what we're doing. And I think it's really important to help people understand who they are in the moment and what they're bringing. And maybe in a similar way that you do with your kids, although we don't have the same kind of rules here. There is an expectation that you know what you're good at and what you're bringing to the table, and that you need to figure out how to execute upon it with the people around you who are supporting you.
Well, these days, and in particular in our business, which is so personal, you almost have to try and make them love the employee love their job. You used to not have to do that. They were just showing up and they were working and they did it because it was something they liked doing. But you have to actually coddle them a little bit and make them, try and make them get up in the morning and say, wow, I really like going to work. I'm going to work.
Yeah. I think that's okay to do, because it's so much better if people love their work, and it's so much better if people are committed. And if you can touch base with why they're there in the first place and just give them more of that creates a much easier playing field than if you're trying to wrench somebody into something that they just don't want to do in the first place.
Sure. So you attended now the way we met a couple of years ago is there was a women in construction conference that I found on the internet, and I went, oh man, I've got to talk to some of these ladies. And that's how we met. And so you had another conference recently.
We sure did. It was excellent.
How was it?
Yeah. This year, the energy was so high. The energy to engage was so high, and to create a way for all of these very clever, talented women to come together and really celebrate everything that we have been given in this industry, and this industry that we really care about. It was such a blast. One of the speakers had all of us stand up, and then she said, anybody who's been in the industry for 5 years or less, please be seated. And 10 years, 20 years, and on she went. And I think Judy Mosen stayed standing at something like 45 years in the industry. So we have a legacy here, and we all just want to figure out how to bring it to bear and use it. And it was so exciting to see how long we've been impacting the industry, and to want to connect with each other, and want to connect with men, and want to connect with making this next generation, this next decade, one of the best ever for all of us together.
I think that the next generation has the most amazing opportunities that we've ever had in this country. I do. Because of the awareness that we have, and the things like the Women in Construction Conference, and all of you ladies that have been doing this for so long, that we know you've been doing it forever, but you weren't getting the credit for what you were doing. And now I know locally here in Dallas, there are lots of lady builders, women builders, and lots more women-owned companies. Now, I've always dealt with women-owned companies, but it was the house cleaning company and things like that, which was fine. But now they're builders, they're remodelers. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, there's a skill set that's being developed, which I love on the labor side, but there's also a championing of collaborative work, of creative work, of how do we come together, of that sort of energy around the nurturing aspect of it. This notion that there's masculine energy and feminine energy in all of us. And what we're trying to do is say, yeah, we need all of it. We need both kinds of energy in what we're doing.
Yes, no doubt about it. And women have brought, and I've talked about this often, women bring a dynamic to this industry that it was lacking for so long. I'm working on a house right now, and it's a brand new house, never been lived in. And the owner called me and said, we have to redo the master closet. And I go in and I look in the master closet, and I said, well, it would have helped if the builder had actually asked a female designer.
How clothes need to be hung up.
Because you can't use a shelf that is 11 feet tall. And so these are the things that I think are really helping the industry, strengthening the industry, making it more accessible to both men and women, and all races, and all education, levels of education. I think it's just an amazing thing. So I applaud you and all the ladies at that conference that are helping strengthen that business. I really do. I applaud you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
We were going to talk a little bit about your creating awareness when you're managing the projects. And so when we're talking about that, I think we're talking about creating the awareness with the client and sort of keeping the project manageable for them. I mean, when you're doing these projects, this is a little awkward. I'm being a little awkward here. When you're managing these projects, you have to manage the client expectations and the end result, and then everything that's in between. It basically starts with, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to look when we're finished. And then there's the really hard part, the in-between part, getting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as you were describing that, what came up for me is this concept of soft eyes. And I don't know if that means anything to you, but when you're drilling down on delivery, you're really focused in, and your eyes, if you sort of think about your face being scrunched up and you're concentrating on what needs to get done, what's one step after the other, after the other, after the other. And I think sometimes we just have to remember that we have to sometimes soften our eyes, take in the bigger picture, see how far back you can see, and see if you can capture everything that's happening. So it's just a very slight shift in how you're thinking about approaching the work that you're doing, but you need both. And in the same way you need masculine energy and you need feminine energy on every job. If we can really celebrate bringing together the opportunity to focus and drive and deliver in balance with what else do we need to do to be creative? What else do we need to do to collaborate? What's going on for everybody here? Am I seeing the whole big picture? We just have to make sure that we're dancing on that line and going back and forth across it all the time to allow for the most success to happen. And because the success factors are so broad at this point, everybody has a different definition of what success is. If we can do the focused hard eyes and then have the soft eyes at the same time, or at least be conscious of when you're jumping back and forth in between and what is needed at any given moment, I think there's some value to that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So I think I understand what you're saying. I think we're talking about being really focused and then sort of relaxing and absorbing, and
right,
and sort of keeping everything in balance.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's very hard to do both at the same time, for sure. So that's why if you have a company that is supporting that and you're aware of who may be the best people that are super focused all the time, because you need them, those guys. And then you also need the people in the company that may bring the softer focus sometimes. And to just know when do you need to check in with what? Gosh, we've been going hard driving for an awfully long time. Maybe we should stop and do the soft eyes focus now for a little while and just make sure everybody's with us.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great advice. Great advice. You're amazing. But I always tell you you're amazing because you are. It's been so great having you. Can you believe our time is already up?
That's it. Oh,
I know. Well,
hardly enough, Alex.
We need to do this more often. We need to do it more often.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Thank you
Anytime.
So much for being here. Allison Iantosca with F.H. Perry Builders in Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being here. It was a fantastic interview. Thank you.
The hardest working and arguably most important system in our homes is our air conditioning and heating system. It heats the air, it cools the air, and it filters the air. That's why it's so critical to have it checked and maintained by the very best professionals available. It's time to contact Total Air and Heat at totalair.com. Get that system pruned and tuned. If you want to have the very best experience, you've got to hire the very best company. Total Air's employees are honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background checked. I never have to worry about sending their technicians out to my clients' homes. Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Total Air and Heat has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. Total Air is a proud dealer of the Trane air conditioning systems, and you know how hard it is to stop a Trane, so give them a call at 972-881-0020. That's 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today.
Welcome back to Remodel Revolution. Our remodeler's tip this week is I wanted to talk a little bit about anticipating delivery dates. Now, I have a project that I'm doing, and we ordered some doors and we ordered some parts, and it took several weeks to get it because these were big exterior doors. But one of the parts was going to take 2 or 3 extra weeks, which it did, unfortunately. So I called my client and I said, she said, when is it going to be there? When is it going to be here? It's supposed to be here this and this day. And I said, well, the reality is that they don't really know if it's there until the truck gets there and they check and see if it's in the truck. And man, she blew a gasket. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I don't blame her at all. I understand that sounds kind of silly and like an excuse, but here's the reality when we're having things shipped and delivered. What happens is you order it, the local person orders it, you pay for it, all that, it goes through that whole process, and then they give you a promise date to deliver. And then when they don't know if it's actually on that truck until the truck gets there. Now, this happens all the time in my business. If we might order a house of windows, a whole house of windows and doors from a window company. And the manufacturer of the windows will give us the promise date. Well, half the time it shows up and there will be 1 or 2 windows missing for some reason or something damaged or something like that. That's not really in control of the person that you're buying them from. That's totally from the factory. Happens often. And so when you're ordering things to be delivered, you have to keep in mind that there's some realities that people just can't control. And in particular, the salesperson, he really doesn't know if it's there until it arrives. And then you have to go through a process of looking at everything in the truck, making go down a manifest and make sure that all the parts are there, that nothing's damaged. Takes a day usually, sometimes more than that, depending on how big it is. And so you often won't know until that truck has been unloaded and you've gone through that whole process, whether or not that part that you're waiting on actually got there when it was promised. So we have to be patient. And here's another part of this whole thing. These days, our suppliers do not stock anything. They just don't. They won't warehouse anything. So almost, now there's obviously some exceptions to that, but for the truly special things, the things that are a little odd, it can be whether it's plumbing fixtures, electric fixtures, you'll order it and they'll say, yeah, it'll be 10 days or whatever the time frame is, because they don't stock it. And so when you're doing a remodel project, you need to make sure and go through a process of listing and ordering everything you can as early in the project as you can so that you can deal with these issues. It's not unusual that I'll get a truck in and it'll be missing something and it'll say, well, man, we had a whatever problem, it'll be 2 weeks. And so I have to then alter all of my plans that I had for that, getting that part in and that type of thing. So let's be patient and understanding when these things happen. I know it's frustrating, but it does happen. I had a client that, this is many years ago, that I did countertops for. And when he looked at the countertops after they were installed, they were granite. And so of course there were little veins in them. Well, he was convinced it was a crack and he wasn't going to accept it. And I actually had to find that same material. I had to match that material, and it happened to be in California. I'm in Dallas. I was tasked with the job from the supplier of finding a trucker that happened to be going from California to Dallas that would actually throw it on his truck and deliver it to us. We actually did that. I was impressed with myself. I actually got that done, but it doesn't always work that well. It doesn't always go that smooth, but these are sort of the things that happen. So it's not always that something's missing. Sometimes something is rejected and you have to replace it. So you have to understand that these parts are not necessarily in town sitting there waiting on us. Normally they're not. And so keep that in mind when you're ordering. Also, I wanted to spend a couple more minutes and talk about some of the other issues that have been coming up recently. Yesterday, I called one of my subs, my electrician, and I said, where's that guy that was supposed to be on my job? Are you going to get someone there tomorrow? Where are they? What's going on? And he blew up. And he is super frustrated because he is having issues with labor. First of all, there's a shortage of just warm bodies to do this work. They're not trained. And so these people, particularly in the trades, are having to grab whoever is looking for a job, and they're having to train them. That takes time and money. And then you're not actually hiring the best. You can't find the best anymore. You have to almost just fill a spot. And it's getting really frustrating, really, for everybody. I have my framers, my electricians, my plumbers, they're all really looking for people to fill these jobs. And then some of the work people, men and women, are taking advantage of this because they know they can. So they'll show up late or want an extra day off or whatever, and it really wreaks havoc on scheduling and the business owner's ability to get things accomplished that he's promised. He's promised people he was going to be there, but he can't necessarily get there. So when you're doing these remodels, and really it's the new home business as well, you need to be really patient and understand that we're doing the best we can, but there might be a few days where someone's not there because they can't get there. They just simply can't cover the amount of work that they're doing. Now, I had a interesting email this week from a lady who I've been talking to for some time now, back and forth, who had a remodel project done, and the contractor at the end of the project sent her a bill that was way over budget. And of course, she got pretty upset. Now, I went through a whole series of questions and answers with her because I wanted to find out the type of agreement that she had with this contractor. And I wanted to know their money arrangement, and I wanted to know how much she had changed, how many things had she changed that would have affected his budget. And she also said, well, they're several months behind and they're over budget. And so, of course, my first instinct is always to go, well, this is the problem the builder has, but, how did you contribute to that? And then, or did you not contribute to it? It can go both ways. And so she went through a whole series of with him where they pulled all of their bills and they went over every invoice, and it ends up that this particular builder had 15 projects going and had completely screwed up the billing. And he was charging her, and he wasn't doing it maliciously at all. He just couldn't keep track. He couldn't keep track of who he was billing for what. People were giving him hours. So they went through the entire project, and it ended up that he told her, you don't owe me another dime. And now, kudos to him. That was really awesome. But also kudos to her, because she took the initiative to sit down with her builder and go through this whole painful process of reconstructing the budget and all that. That's hard to do. It's never fun to do that. So I'm glad she did that, and it ended up that she really had a good guy working for her. He was just overwhelmed with the amount of business that he had. He hadn't handled it well, and I suspect he will do a better job in the future. Hey, we have a new friend to the show, Laura Eagan. Laura is a designer with Estrella Cabinetry in I believe Phoenix. Laura, if I have that wrong, you're welcome to correct me. But
Can you hear me?
yes, all the
There you go.
way from Phoenix, Arizona. Laura Eagan, how are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. I'm fantastic. It's so good to see you.
You too.
Laura harassed me. She sent me some hate mail and harassed me. And she said, how could a guy that's that good looking not want to talk to a woman this beautiful?
That's exactly verbatim what I think.
It happens to me every day. What can I say? Even in the coffee shop.
Oh my gosh. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm fantastic. I really am. We're having a great time today on the show, and we're so glad that we could get you on the air with us. You and I have been talking about a couple of things, because when you told me you were a kitchen designer, I said, so what? Who needs to hire a kitchen designer? I don't care. I didn't really want quite that mean to you.
No, you didn't. You were much more soft about it.
So tell us why, and this is the point of our call today, why should someone hire a kitchen designer instead of, just doing it themselves on the internet?
So, well, there's a couple different ways you can remodel your kitchen. You could do a lot of the specifying yourself, cabinetry, and then you can call your builder and say, this is the picture of what I want my kitchen to look like. However, all of the details that go into that and keeping everything in budget, it's really almost imperative that you do get a good kitchen designer that's involved in the project. My job is to make sure it works, it stays in budget, it also looks beautiful, it's timeless, and there's so much detail that I bring to the table. I'm very mechanical. So we can talk about, you want to load up. Let's say right now you have a freestanding range and you have an over the range microwave, and that's pulling about 40 amps by the time you're all said and done. Well, now you want a cooktop, you want a double oven, you want a microwave in a different location, you want a warming drawer. Then it becomes my job I can look at the electrical panel and say that, well, we don't have enough juice. We're going to have to be able to put in a sub panel. It's going to butt into the budget about $4,000 to $5,000. The builder's going to appreciate me kind of pre-qualifying and getting the whole project together. It's going to make your job easier, but it's also going to keep the client in budget, because if we have to find and allocate that $5,000 from somewhere else, maybe we won't do a double oven. We'll do an oven microwave, and so on and so forth. It's very important for me, for you to at least get a kitchen designer involved to make sure that the project really does go smooth.
Well, I totally agree with that. I absolutely do. Now, we're going to take a real fast break here. And when we come back, we're going to talk about why I love having a kitchen designer involved.
Good. Yeah. Terrific.
Sometimes it's a question of, do I call or don't I call the foundation repair company? Well, what if I tell you that I know a foundation repair company that will tell you if you don't need foundation repair? That's right. Hargrave & Hargrave Foundation Repair has been in business for over 50 years, and they know the difference. One of the last family-owned foundation repair businesses in North Texas. Not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Hargrave & Hargrave Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415 at the first sign of trouble. Hargrave uses the Chance helical pier system exclusively because it's the highest quality, most reliable helical pier money can buy. 972-442-3415 or contact them at hargravefoundation.com.
One of the first things that comes to question when I'm discussing, in particular, a kitchen remodel with a homeowner is whether or not they need a designer. Do we really have to pay someone to do this? And of course, I'm like, well, you can try and do it yourself, but it'll cost you twice as much and take twice as long, probably. That's if you're lucky and something really bad doesn't happen.
Right. Absolutely.
I absolutely love. So today we've got Laura Eagan with Estrella Cabinetry in Phoenix, Arizona. She's a designer, well-respected designer in the Phoenix area. And we are so happy that she agreed to come on with us and explain to us. Now, Laura, I love having a designer, because a good designer, I don't have to do anything but put things in place. In other words, you've gone through the process with the homeowner of selecting the tile that's in the budget, selecting, putting the finishes together, putting the colors together, all those things.
Yes.
That people don't think about. There's hundreds of decisions that have to be made.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest questions that's probably coming up to anybody listening is, how much is this going to cost? So there's the difference between me and an interior designer. An interior designer is you're going to pay for their time, and you're going to pay for their ability to specify all the materials. But the interior designer is still going to seek out somebody like me. So I make my money on the materials. So I'm like any of the other tradespeople. I'm going to get paid based on what I sell. So if, let's say, you come in and you have a budget of $30,000, and Alex, you and I talked a little bit about this, is that, let's say the budget is $30,000. I'm going to take $10,000, and that is going to be the cabinetry. And then the other $20,000 is going to be the rest of the materials. It's going to be Alex. It's going to be the countertops. It's going to be your labor and your electrical and your plumbing and your backsplash and so on and so forth. So there's really no extra charge for me. So when you're answering Alex's question before the break is, how do you find a kitchen designer? And what really does that entail? You really want to look for somebody that has a lot of experience, because a good kitchen designer doesn't necessarily, well, unless you have a Sub-Zero refrigerator going in, I'm not interested in the project. It has nothing to do with that. Let's say you have a very small budget. You really want to seek out a kitchen designer, because that way I can make sure that you're going to spend your money in the right places. You're not going to be disappointed with the end result.
Well, and here's what happens. From my perspective as the builder and the contractor, I don't necessarily, first of all, my strength is not selecting tile. The way I select tile is I take the client to the tile store and I go, this is your allowance. Do whatever you want. Spend more, spend less. I don't care. And I'm not going to tell you, no, you really don't want that shade of blue.
Right. Right.
I don't know, because I'm a guy. What do I know about color? Nothing.
No, you get it. I so get it. Yeah.
And so you and I have very specific skill sets. You as a designer, me as a contractor, we have very specific skill sets. I call it a design team.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
where I have a architect, a designer, which can be a kitchen, depending on what the project is.
Right. Exactly. There's projects you don't need my services at all. You're putting an addition on a bedroom or whatnot, that I'm not involved in that.
Right. And then part of that team, that team includes builder, designer, architect, and of course, homeowner, because at the end of the day, they make that final call.
Right. Absolutely.
So how are now I have people calling me up and they've already been all over the internet. They know everything about me from birth. They know everything about my business.
Yes.
Everything about my show. It's all out there. And then they go and they do their research, so they know everything about remodeling.
Absolutely. So we run into that quite often, is where the client will say, and I'll give them allowances on materials. And then they say, well, I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to get my faucet, or I'm going to go on Amazon and get my sink. You're more than welcome to do that, but I won't install it. And I'm pretty firm about that. It becomes just so tricky to warranty. So let's say something goes wrong with the sink and I've installed it. It makes it just, because at the end of the day, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to take care of it. But also at the end of the day, I need to make a profit on it. I need to take care of my customer, but we also stay in business. I mean, that's the whole point, is that we have to make a profit. But what is best for the client? I mean, if it's just some kind of a small bath remodel and, Uncle Joe is a plumber, then feel free and I'll even show you where to go. But part of the profit is the expertise, the warranty, the guidance, so it's really a win-win, but you have to pay for that service.
You have to understand that when you're remodeling anything, particularly a kitchen. Now think about a kitchen. A kitchen has everything in it is a moving part or something electronic or something mechanical. Yeah. It's got a gazillion parts to it. When you're remodeling a kitchen, I just tell them all this is managed chaos.
Correct.
That's basically what it is.
Yep. And and as you know yourself, $100,000 kitchen remodel is easier than a $25,000 bath remodel.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
The bathrooms have way more moving parts than the kitchen. The kitchen just seems to be more expensive, but
well, in the benefit of a good design team, like you say, we have to make things fit, not only fit, but they have to fit in the right places. We have to make sure that the plug is in the right place for the dishwasher or the trash compactor or the oven, or the gas line is in the right place, and you can't just guess at it. There's also a lot has to do with things like, what kind of foundation does your house have, and can you just cut a big hole in it?
Right.
The house
and then of course, you can tell by my accent, I'm originally from New York, and we had basements.
Really?
And we couldn't, shocker, I know. As I sip on my coffee.
Your coffee?
My coffee. but we had certain different restrictions on how we could build back east versus here in Arizona, so it's much easier here. Our foundations are usually a concrete slab, so I can't move plumbing around. We also have post-tension slabs, which means that there's barbed wire going through the slab, so I can't just easily move a sink. However, back east, if I've got an unfinished basement, I can almost move that plumbing anywhere I want.
Mm-hmm.
The other caveat to that is that I can't plumb on an exterior wall back east, but I can here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
It will in the Phoenix area anyway. Upstate, it gets colder than it did for me in New York. So it's just a matter of where you are. I'm sure your building codes are different in Texas.
Well, yeah, we all have certain climates that we build in around the country, we have different climate zones, and we have to build to those, and that goes all the way from how you do the foundation to how you insulate the walls. I mean, it goes all the way through the process, for sure. Right. So, what sort of trends are your clients looking for right now?
Contemporary, and it's really across the board. Their door styles, their finishes, very clean and sleek, almost a Scandinavian vibe.
It's interesting because I actually looked at a house with for a doctor, and that was exactly how he described it to me. He said, I want sort of a Scandinavian look. I had not heard that till recently. Is that new?
Yeah, it's, I think it's just, it is relatively new.
So
it's been around forever, but it's more mainstream now.
Well, describe to me, what does that really mean when you say Scandinavian? Describe some of the finishes that you're looking for.
Blonde woods, slab door styles, really minimalistic in moldings and even doors. Just super simple, very soft, I guess would be another good add
My
to it.
guy was looking for things like a wood ceiling, and like you say, it was a blonde.
Yeah, I just got, I don't, it's a magazine. It's an interior designer. I think she's out of the LA area, McGee. And it's interesting because this magazine, this catalog, has every single thing we're talking about. I wish I had a better
It's very interesting.
view.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Let me see.
So,
Like simple.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was an interesting magazine. Yeah, because I think, and you're in the middle of shiplap world where you are, aren't you?
has it not hit there yet? It's on its way. Get ready.
Oh yeah, the modern farmhouse, black interior on the windows, and
Yeah, I've been complaining.
Yeah.
Of course, I've been doing this a couple of years. So when
Yep.
I started doing this, all the houses I worked on were shiplap.
Every week he complains.
I was complaining to someone else the other day about it. But hey, I'm not going to complain anymore. If you want it and it makes you happy, I'm going to do 110% good
Yeah.
job. Doesn't matter
absolutely.
to me. I don't have to live with it.
But a lot of wood tones, you're seeing blonde wood floors. You're seeing, of course, you're seeing shiplap. But I'm starting to see shiplap in different colors, which I appreciate.
Oh,
It's
that's
not
just
gray.
that's just so great.
A lot of walnut.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Oh, you're fine. I'm thinking actually walnut door behind me. But yeah, we've just been doing a lot of grain match walnuts.
Yeah.
In fact, we have a rift cut oak project. It's natural and espresso. So it's almost like a black and a blonde kind of, but that'll be kind of cool. We'll photograph that.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on with us today. It's been a really fun and engaging conversation, and we need to do it more often.
I love it. Okay.
And I'm glad things are going really good for you in Phoenix, and you finally got away from that other place you were at that caused you to have that little problem with your speech.
I see. And I'll work on that. I know my husband, who's from Southern California, he says, somebody had asked him if when I go home, does my accent get thicker? And he said, no. What happens is when she comes home or when she's off the phone with somebody, the speed of which she speaks increases.
There you go.
So I come home and
Well, that was fantastic. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Laura
much, Alex.
Eagan with Estrella.
Straya.
Thank you, cabinetry.
No problem. No, anybody outside of the confines, it's Estrella.
There you
But
go.
here we do pronounce it Estrella.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being with us. And we'll do it again soon.
All right, dynamite. I appreciate it. Great seeing you.
So, if you're thinking about remodeling your house, looking for a contractor, you're going to build a house, remodel, do an addition, do a whole house interior remodel, whatever it is that you're thinking of doing, give us a call. Alex Guthrie Construction, 469-446-8508. Just contact me, alex@alexguthrie.net or info@alexguthrie.net. I'll be happy to take a look at it. We have a whole design team. We can get in there and handle whatever it is that you're thinking about doing. Thank you, Ziggy Becker, for being engineering another amazing show today. Thank you, Laura Eagan. And thank you, my good friend, Allison Iantosca. It's been a fantastic show. I hope you enjoyed it, and look for our podcast. It'll be coming out tomorrow. And also on YouTube Live, we'll have it up on YouTube. Check us out on any of your favorite podcasts. If you're a podcast person, podcast platforms, we're on all of them. Check out our website at remodelrev.com. And in the meantime, this is Alex Guthrie. I'll see you next week. I hope you have a good one. Be well.
You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.